It was in February when the catalogue from the art dealer J.W. Britnell appeared on the desk of my friend Williams. Accompanying it was a typewritten communication which ran as follows. Dear Sir, we beg to call your attention to number 978 in our accompanying catalogue, which we shall be glad to send you on approval. Yours faithfully, J.W. Britnell. To turn to number 978 in the catalogue was the work of a moment, and in the place indicated, Mr. Williams found the following entry. 978, unknown. Interesting mezzotint, view of a manor house, early part of the century, 15 by 10 inches, black frame, 2 guineas. It was not especially exciting, and the price seemed high. However, Mr. Williams wrote a postcard asking for the article to be sent on approval, along with some other engravings and sketches which appeared in the same catalogue. A parcel of any kind always arrives a day later than you expected, and the mezzotint was delivered to his rooms in college by the afternoon post of Saturday. It was here that he found it when he came into tea with his friend, Professor Binks. The mezzotint, in a large black frame, turned out to be rather indifferent. It presented a full-face view of a not very large manor house of the last century, with 3 rows of plain-sashed windows with rusticated masonry about them, a parapet with balls or vases at the angles, and a small portico in the centre. On either side were trees, and in front a considerable expanse of lawn. The legend AWF Sculpsit was engraved on the narrow margin, and on the back was a paper label, the left hand of which had been torn off. All that remained were the ends of 2 lines of writing. The first had the letters N-G-L-E-Y, Hall, the second, Essex. What is this place, Williams? Said Binks. Just what I'm going to try to find out, said Williams, searching in vain through a gazetteer. I can't conceive why Britnell should want 2 guineas for such a wretched engraving. There aren't even any figures to give it life. Oh, it's not so badly done. And I should have thought there were figures, or at least a figure, just on the edge in front. And indeed there was. Hardly more than a black blot on the extreme edge of the engraving. The head of a man or woman, a good deal muffled up, the back turned to the spectator and looking towards the house. Williams had not noticed it before. Later that evening, after dinner and an hour in the common room, Williams and a few of his colleagues retired to his rooms, and during a lull, Williams picked up the mezzotint from the table without looking at it and handed it to one of them. The gentleman took it carelessly, but then said in a tone of some interest, "It's really a very good piece of work, Williams, and the figure, though it's rather too grotesque, is somehow very impressive." "Yes, isn't it?" said Williams, busy giving whiskey and soda to the company. So it was not until some time past midnight that on lighting his bedroom candle, the picture again caught his eye. It was face upwards on the table, and what Williams saw made him very nearly drop the candle on the floor. In the middle of the lawn, in front of the unknown house, there was a figure where no figure had been at 5 o'clock that afternoon. It was crawling on all fours towards the house, and it was muffled in a strange black garment with a white cross on the back. I don't know what is the ideal course to pursue in a situation of this kind. I can only tell you what Mr. Williams did, which was to lock it up in a drawer, but not before he had written out and signed an account of the extraordinary change which the picture had undergone since it had come into his possession. By now, in need of a further witness, he had decided to invite his neighbour, Nisbet, to breakfast on the following day. Nisbet arrived about 9:30, and during the meal nothing was said about the mezzotint, save that he had a picture on which he wished Nisbet's opinion. But at last the moment arrived for which he had waited. With considerable excitement, he unlocked the drawer and placed the picture face downwards into Nisbet's hands. "Now," he said, "I want you to describe exactly what you see in that picture." "Well," said Nisbet, "I have here a view of a country house, English, I presume, by moonlight. The moon appears to be on the wane, and there are clouds in the sky. There's not much more to be said. The house has 1, 2, 3 rows of windows, 5 in each row, except at the bottom where there's a porch instead of the middle one, and, what about figures?" said Williams. "There aren't any, but, what? No figure on the grass in front? Not a thing, I'll swear to it. But there's just one other thing. One of the windows on the ground floor, left of the door, is open." "My goodness," said Williams with great excitement. "He must have got in." It was quite true. There was no figure. And there was the open window. After a moment of speechless surprise, Williams went to the writing table and, after scribbling for a short time, brought 2 papers to Nisbet, asking him to sign one, his own description of the picture, and then to read the other, which was William's statement written the night before. "It looks," said Nisbet, "as if we were assisting at the working out of a tragedy somewhere. The question is, has it happened already? Or is it going to come off?" "I must get the thing photographed before it goes further," said Williams. "And I'll go and fetch Garwood, who saw the picture last night, and get him to sign a statement that the figure, when he saw it, hadn't got far across the lawn. And I must show it to old Green. It's quite likely he'll know the place. You know, I'm beginning to think that 2 guineas is not a very exorbitant price for it now." "You going to sit and watch it all day?" asked Nisbet. "Well, no. I rather imagine we're meant to see the whole thing. Besides, I have an idea that it wouldn't change much, if at all, in the daytime. We might go out for a walk. I shall leave the picture out on the table here and sport the door. My skip can get in, but no one else can." At 5 o'clock, they returned to find William's skip seated on a chair, gazing at the picture with undisguised horror. He was a servant of considerable standing, and nothing could have been more alien to his practice than to be found sitting in his master's chair. "Begging your pardon, sir, but it ain't a picture I should hang where my little girl could see it, sir. If she was to catch a sight of this skeleton here, or whatever it is, carrying off the poor baby, she'd be in a taking and no mistake." And with these words, the excellent man went to continue on his rounds. You may be sure that the gentleman lost no time in gathering round the engraving. There was the house as before. The window that had been open was shut, and the figure was once more on the lawn. But now it was erect and stepping swiftly with long strides towards the front of the picture. The black drapery hung down over its face, revealing only a glimpse of a white, dome-like forehead and a few straggling hairs. The head was bent down and the arms were tightly clasped over an object which could dimly be identified as a child. From 5 until 7, the 3 companions sat and watched the picture by turns, but it never changed, and eventually they agreed to leave it and to return again later. When they assembled again, the figure was gone, and the house was quiet under the moonbeams. There seemed nothing for it but to spend the evening over gazetteers and guidebooks. At 11:30 p.m., Williams read out the following lines from Murray's Guide to Essex. 16.5 miles, Anningley. The church has been an interesting building of Norman date, but was extensively classicised in the last century. It contains the tomb of the family of Francis, whose mansion, Anningley Hall, a solid Queen Anne house, stands immediately beyond the churchyard in a park of about 80 acres. The family is now extinct, the last heir having disappeared mysteriously in infancy in the year 1802. The father, Mr. Arthur Francis, was locally known as a talented amateur engraver in mezzotint. After his son's disappearance, he lived in complete retirement at the Hall and was found dead in his studio on the 3rd anniversary of the disaster, having just completed an engraving of the house, impressions of which are of considerable rarity. When on his return, Green, the college bursar, identified the house as Anningley Hall, Williams asked him for a possible explanation of the figure in the picture. "I don't know, I'm sure, Williams. What used to be said when I first knew the place was that old Francis was always very much down on these poaching fellas, and by degrees he got rid of them all but one, who was the last surviving member of a very old family. I believe they were lords of the manor at one time. Anyway, this man always managed to keep on the right side of the law until one night the keepers found him at it. You can imagine there was a row, and the man, his name was Gaudy, was unlucky enough to shoot one of the keepers. He was strung up in double quick time, and I've been shown the place where he was buried on the north side of the church. It was always said that some friend of Gaudy's must have planned to get hold of Francis's boy and put an end to his line, too. Must say, it looks now as if old Gaudy had managed the job himself." I've only to add that the picture is now in the Ashlian Museum, and that, though carefully watched, it has never been known to change again.